I still remember the taste of recycled air and the dull ache behind my eyes after that jump through the unstable corridor to Zavaron 7. 17 subjective hours of nausea, flickering lights, and the constant whine of the engines trying not to tear us apart. When we finally docked, I thought the worst was over. I was wrong. The first few days were a blur of glowing dinners. The food literally glowed: bioluminescent algae salads, translucent fruits that pulsed like tiny stars, wine that shimmered violet in the dark. I smiled, nodded, complimented flavors I couldn't identify, all while my stomach quietly rebelled. Diplomatic immunity doesn't cover indigestion. Then they told me about the ceremony. Choice in darkness, they called it. An ancient Zavaron ritual. Blindfolded, I would select a life companion from the daughters of the high clans. Purely symbolic, they insisted. A gesture of respect, a bridge between Earth and Zavaron. And, conveniently, it would grease the wheels for the new trade agreements everyone was so eager to sign. I stood in the vast crystalline hall, wearing robes that moved on their own like curious fingers adjusting my posture. The air hummed with hidden machinery. Through towering arched windows, I could see the triple rings of Zavaron, 7 catching the light of its 7 suns, turning the sky into molten silver. Kiran, the old advisor with ears long enough to brush his collarbone, approached me with the patience of someone who had explained this to a dozen confused aliens before. "It is time, Ambassador Rivers," he said softly. "The candidates await." I forced a grin. "Any chance I can just pick the one with the best playlist?" He didn't laugh. They led me forward. I could feel the weight of hundreds of eyes. Somewhere in the shadows, on a throne that floated without visible support, the empress herself was watching. They tied the blindfold over my eyes. Darkness swallowed everything. The blindfold was soft, almost silky, but it might as well have been welded to my skull. Everything went black the instant they knotted it behind my head. No faint glow from the crystal walls, no silver light leaking through the arches. Just darkness and the sudden, overwhelming awareness of sound. The hall was alive with subtle noises I hadn't noticed before. The low, constant thrum of whatever kept the throne floating. The soft rustle of robes as people shifted their weight. Breathing, dozens of different rhythms, some calm, some quick and nervous. Even the faint metallic click of jewelry against long, pointed ears. Kiran's voice came from my left, steady and low, the same patient tone he'd used every time he had to explain another bizarre Zavaron custom. "Ambassador Rivers," he began, "this is purely symbolic. The last time a selection resulted in a binding union was 3 centuries ago, during the reign of Empress Vera II. Since then it has been a performance of respect, a way to honor the old ways while showing outsiders that we still value connection." I tilted my head toward him. "So I'm basically the human equivalent of cutting a ribbon at a new spaceport?" A tiny pause. I could almost hear his ears droop a fraction further. "An imperfect analogy," he said dryly, "but not entirely inaccurate. You will hear each candidate speak once. You will feel their presence as you pass. When all have spoken, you will walk the line again and place your hand on the shoulder of the one who resonates with you most. Then we share the ritual wine. The court applauds Earth's gracious participation, and you return to your regular duties with enhanced diplomatic standing. And the woman I pick gets a nice title, a ceremonial necklace, and bragging rights at family dinners." Precisely. For many houses, even a symbolic selection by the Earth ambassador carries considerable prestige. Trade contracts have been signed over less. I let out a short laugh. Reminds me of my senior prom. They made us pick dance partners blindfolded for some trust-building exercise. I ended up with the captain of the debate team. We slow danced to industrial synth for 3 minutes, and then spent the rest of the night arguing about asteroid mining rights. Kiran made a small sound that might have been a sigh or the Zavaron equivalent of rolling his eyes. "The comparison is noted," he said, "but please understand the gravity here. The Empress herself is present. Her oversight signals how seriously Zavaron takes our new partnership. She watches from the levitating throne at the far end of the hall. You cannot see her, of course, but she sees everything." I turned my head slightly, trying to orient myself. Somewhere in that direction, I imagined a floating platform, a shadowed figure, eyes like storm clouds tracking every move I made. "Great," I muttered. "No pressure." Kiran touched my elbow lightly. "Guiding, not forcing. The candidates are ready. 8 daughters of the highest clans. All volunteers, though some volunteered more willingly than others. He paused, then added quietly, "They know what this could mean for their families. Be kind, Ambassador. Even in symbolism, hearts are involved." I swallowed. Kind. Right. I was 29, single, freshly escaped from a spectacularly failed engagement back on Earth, and now I was supposed to play galactic matchmaker while blind. Perfect. Whenever you're ready, Kiran said. I took a slow breath. The air tasted faintly of ozone and blooming night flowers from the hanging gardens outside. Let's get this over with, I said. He guided me forward one step. The first voice came from directly in front of me, clear, measured, professional. Ambassador Rivers, I am Terran of House Vexer. My clan commands the primary drone fleets harvesting iridium on the outer belt. A union, symbolic or otherwise, would ensure stable mineral flows to Earth's shipyards for generations. I nodded politely, even though she couldn't see it. Corporate pitch, delivered flawlessly. Next, Kiran nudged me one step right. The second voice was brighter, almost bubbling. Amara, I run the Xenobotany wing at the Starfall Conservatory. Did you know your planet's saguaro cacti can survive here if we mist them with ionized mist every 40 hours? I've got 3 of them blooming right now. Bright red flowers the size of dinner plates. I'd love to show you the greenhouse sometime. I actually smiled behind the blindfold. That sounds a lot more fun than iridium spreadsheets. She laughed, genuine, delighted. I liked her immediately. Another step. The third voice was lower, clipped, no nonsense. Lieutenant Kale of House Draven. I'm only here because my father threatened to ground my entire squadron if I didn't show up. No offense, Ambassador, but I'd rather be running combat sims on the border than playing dress-up for politics. My ship's a Razor-class interceptor, fastest in the sector. That's where I belong. A ripple of shocked murmurs ran through the observers. I grinned wider. Razor-class, I said. I flew a training sim in one once. Nearly blacked out on the first turn. She snorted. Most humans do. Kiran cleared his throat pointedly and moved me along. The voices continued, some polished, some nervous, one almost painfully shy about her family's work in atmospheric filtration tech, each one revealing a little more about who they were beneath the clan crests and ceremonial silks. I tried to listen carefully, to weigh presence against words, the way Kiran had instructed. But mostly I felt like a fraud. This wasn't my world. These weren't my stakes. And somewhere above us all, unseen, the Empress was watching, judging, waiting to see what kind of man Earth had sent her. If you've watched this far, then this story is really interesting to you. Please confirm it by clicking like under this video. It doesn't cost you anything, but it will help me understand what story to publish for you next. Write in the comments who the alien woman in this story looks like, and who you would like to see in the next one. Tell me, do you like the comic book style? Let's move on. Kiran's fingers rested lightly on my elbow again, a silent signal to keep moving. I took another slow step along the invisible line, the polished floor cool beneath my bare feet. The robe's tiny tendrils kept trying to smooth themselves against my skin, like nervous pets trying to comfort me. The fourth voice was softer, almost hesitant. I am Lyra of House Thaler. My family has maintained the atmospheric recyclers for the Capitol Dome for 7 generations. We ensure every breath is clean, every storm filtered. If you chose me, even symbolically, it would honor our work. And perhaps Earth could share your filtration techniques? We've heard your oceans are recovering. She sounded young, earnest, a little afraid of saying the wrong thing. I murmured something encouraging. That's important work. Cleaner air saves more lives than most weapons ever could, and felt her relax just a fraction. Next, the fifth spoke with quiet confidence. Sarah of House Knife. I design neural interfaces for deep space pilots. Your species still uses physical controls in some vessels, yes? I've studied the latency issues. I could show you prototypes that reduce reaction time by 40%. Imagine what that would mean for joint fleet exercises. Technical, precise, the kind of mind I respected. I nodded. I'd like to see those prototypes, assuming I don't cause an interplanetary incident in the next 10 minutes. A small, surprised laugh from her. Good. Sixth voice. Nervous, words tumbling over each other. I'm Vey of House Chorus. Textiles. We weave memory fabrics. Clothes that remember your favorite temperature, your posture. I brought a sample sash. It's blue like your homeworld's seas from orbit. Or so the holos say. I've never left the system. I could picture her twisting her hands. Blue sounds perfect, I said gently. Thank you for coming. 7th. This one was older, voice like worn leather. Commander Rhea, House Varn. Retired now, but I commanded the Shield Fleet during the Rift incursion 30 years ago. I didn't volunteer. My daughter did, then backed out at the last moment. So here I am, in silk instead of armor. If you pick me, Ambassador, you'll get the most honest answer in the room. This whole thing is outdated nonsense. But tradition is tradition. I actually chuckled. Honesty is rare. I appreciate it. Kieran guided me one final step. The 8th candidate. A long silence stretched. No immediate voice. Just the faint shift of fabric, the softest exhale. Then she spoke. Not from the line. From slightly to my right. Apart. A voice deeper than the others. Rich with amusement and something sharper underneath. Like starlight cutting through fog. You look like a man who's been asked to juggle plasma coils while riding a unicycle, Ambassador Rivers. The hall went unnaturally quiet. Even the background hum of the palace seemed to dip. I turned my head toward the sound. I feel like one too. A low, warm laugh, genuine, unguarded. It sent a strange shiver down my spine. Most people in your position would be reciting prepared compliments by now. You haven't. Why? I shrugged, even though she couldn't see it. Because I'm terrible at reciting compliments. And because right now I'm blind, standing in a room full of strangers, and the only thing that feels real is whoever just called me out on it. Another pause. Then, softer. Honesty for honesty, then. Why did you come to Zavaron 7? The official reason is diplomacy. What's the real one? I hesitated. Protocol screamed at me to give the polished answer. But something in her tone, direct, curious, without judgment, pulled the truth out instead. I ran, I said quietly. Back on Earth I trusted someone I shouldn't have. Shared things I shouldn't have. Lost my career trajectory, my fiancé, most of my friends. They offered me this posting as a polite way to get me out of sight. I took it because light years seemed far enough to start over. Or at least to pretend I had. Silence again. But not empty. Heavy with listening. That's a heavy thing to carry alone, she said finally. Most people would lie about it. Polish it into something heroic. I'm done polishing, I answered. It never worked anyway. Kieran cleared his throat, loudly this time. Ambassador, the presentations are complete. You must now. Shoo, I said without thinking. I'm talking. A ripple of shocked gasps from the observers. I could practically feel Kieran's ears flattening in horror. The voice laughed again, quiet, delighted. You just shushed the chief protocol officer in front of the entire court. Bold. Or stupid, I muttered. Jury's still out. Tell me something else, she said. What do you miss most about Earth? I didn't have to think. The smell of rain on concrete. Real rain, not recycled mist. And quiet mornings. No alerts, no briefings. Just coffee and the sound of traffic that isn't trying to kill you. She made a small, thoughtful sound. We have rain here. Different. It glows sometimes. But quiet mornings, those are rare for me too. Kieran's hand tightened on my arm. Ambassador, please. The selection. I ignored him. One more question burned in me. Who are you? I asked her. A beat. Someone who wanted to know if an Earthling could speak to a person instead of a position, she said. So far, you're doing better than most. I smiled despite everything. Good. Because I'm about to do something really stupid. The moment I said it, I'm about to do something really stupid. The entire hall seemed to hold its breath. Even the floating throne's subtle hum felt quieter, as if the palace itself was leaning in. Kieran's grip on my elbow turned vice-like. Ambassador Rivers, he hissed, voice pitched low but frantic. You must return to the line. The protocol requires. I shook him off. Gently, but firmly. Protocol can wait 30 seconds. I took one step forward, then another, away from the neat semicircle of candidates. Toward that voice. The floor felt different under my feet here. Warmer, almost vibrating with a different frequency. My outstretched hand met nothing at first, just air thick with perfume. Something sharp and floral, like crushed star blossoms mixed with distant lightning. Then my fingers brushed fabric. Heavy silk, threaded with what felt like living metal. Cool, then warming instantly to my touch. I slid my palm up until it rested on a shoulder. Solid, Real, not retreating. If I have to choose honestly, I said, loud enough for the whole damn court to hear, I choose the one I just spoke to for real. Not the rehearsed speeches. Not the clan resumes. Her. Dead silence. Then chaos erupted in whispers, sharp, overlapping, like static on an open comm channel. Someone gasped. Someone else muttered impossible in heavily accented standard. I could feel the temperature in the room spike as outrage rippled outward. Kieran's voice cracked. Ambassador, this is not permitted. The candidates are the 8 in the circle. You cannot simply. I didn't simply. I cut in. I listened. I spoke. Someone answered. That's what you told me to do. The shoulder beneath my hand tensed, then relaxed again. A slow, deliberate exhale. Kieran sounded like he was strangling on protocol. But she was not. A new voice, hers, spoke then. Calm. Carrying effortlessly across the hall without shouting. Enough, Kieran. The whispers died instantly. Even the air seemed to still. She continued, tone light but edged with unmistakable authority. The law is clear. Any unmarried woman of suitable rank may present herself. She may speak when addressed. Selection is confirmed by touch upon the shoulder. I stood where the circle ended. I spoke. He touched. By every letter of the ancient code, the choice stands. I felt my stomach drop through the floor. Kieran made a strangled noise. Your Majesty, Your Majesty. The words hit me like a hull breach. I didn't move my hand. Couldn't. My brain was still trying to catch up. The Empress, Loren Vale, ruler of Zavaron and the United System of 7 Sons. The woman whose signature was on every treaty we'd come here to negotiate. The one whose face adorned every official hollow in the embassy. The one who was supposed to be on the levitating throne the entire time. She'd been standing here, among them, testing, watching, me. A ripple of horrified realization swept the court. I heard chairs scraping, robes rustling, voices rising in argument. Someone called for the guard. Someone else demanded immediate annulment. Loren ignored them all. Remove the blindfold, she said quietly. Hands, several pairs, fumbled at the knot behind my head. The fabric fell away. Light flooded back in painful shards. I blinked hard against the crystalline glare. And there she was, shining gray eyes that seemed to hold entire nebulae. Hair like frozen starlight, braided with filaments of silver that caught every stray photon. Ears longer and more elegantly pointed than any I'd seen, adorned with the crest of the eternal crown. Tiny constellations worked in platinum and void-black gemstones. Empress Loren Vale. She looked exactly like the Holos and nothing like them. The Holos were perfect, distant, regal. This woman was alive, flushed faintly at the cheeks, one corner of her mouth twitching between amusement and something dangerously close to exasperation. She was taller than I'd expected, almost eye level with me even though I was standing on the slightly raised selection circle. Her gaze locked on mine, searching, weighing. I still had my hand on her shoulder. I didn't move it. She tilted her head fractionally. You really didn't know? It wasn't a question. I swallowed. No, I didn't. A slow, almost reluctant smile curved her lips. Good. The court exploded again, louder this time. Accusations flew. Demands for protocol review. One older noble in deep indigo robes stepped forward, face thunderous. This is invalid. The Empress was presiding, not participating. Ignorance of an outsider cannot bind the sovereign too. Loren raised one hand. The motion was small. The room silenced like someone hit mute. Ignorance is no defense under the law, she said evenly. But neither is it a crime here. The selection is valid. However, she turned those storm gray eyes back to me. Our law also provides for a period of courtship, 30 days, to determine whether blind instinct translates to genuine compatibility. She paused, letting the words settle. Ambassador Rivers will reside in the palace guest wing during this time. We will share meals, conversations, public functions, as tradition demands. At the end of 30 days, we will both decide if the choice holds merit. She looked at me again, really looked. Unless the ambassador wishes to withdraw before the ritual wine is shared, the law allows it, though the social cost would be considerable. Every eye in the hall fixed on me. I could feel the escape hatch opening. Say the words. Apologize. Blame cultural misunderstanding. Walk away with minor embarrassment and my career still intact. Safe. Sensible. The smart move for a man who'd already burned too many bridges. I looked at her, at the faint challenge in her eyes, at the way she stood perfectly straight, but not stiff, poised between throne and person, waiting to see which way I would fall. I thought about the blindfold, the darkness, the way her voice had cut through everything like truth. I thought about running again. Then I thought about staying. I don't withdraw, I said clearly. A flicker crossed her face, surprise, maybe relief, maybe something else entirely. I smiled. I made my choice. I'd like to see where it leads. Lauren's eyes widened just a fraction. Then she laughed, soft, bright, startling in its genuineness. The court stared in stunned silence. Very well, she said. Let it be known. I placed myself among the candidates as a test of character. I did not expect to be chosen. That an earthling selected honesty over flattery speaks well of your species. She turned to the servants who had appeared with trays of crystal goblets filled with glowing amber liquid. To unexpected choices, she said, raising hers. I took the one offered to me. Our fingers brushed. To magnificent fools who make them, I replied. We drank. The wine tasted like starlight, regret, and terrifying possibility. The wine burned going down, sweet at first, then sharp, like swallowing a mouthful of ionized plasma. I set the empty goblet on the nearest servant's tray before my hand could shake. The court was still murmuring, a low roar of disbelief and calculation. Every noble face I could see was frozen somewhere between outrage and opportunistic reassessment. They were already rewriting alliances in their heads. Lorraine, Empress Lorraine Vale, stood exactly where she had been, my palm still resting lightly on her shoulder. Neither of us had moved to break the contact. Her skin was warm through the silk. I could feel the subtle rise and fall of her breathing. Steady, controlled, but not calm. She finally spoke, voice pitched only for me. You have no idea what you've just done, do you? I met her eyes, those impossible gray nebulae, and gave the smallest shrug. I chose the person who didn't treat me like a walking trade agreement. If that's a crime, lock me up. Her lips twitched. Not quite a smile. It's not a crime, she murmured. It's unprecedented. And now every faction in the Seven Sons will spend the next 30 days trying to decide whether you're a brilliant diplomat, a reckless fool, or both. Both has been my brand for years, I said. She studied me another heartbeat, then turned to address the hall. The motion was small, barely a shift, but the room snapped to attention like gravity had reversed. Let the record show, she said, voice carrying without effort, that Ambassador Alex Rivers of Earth has made his selection in accordance with the law of the Veil. I accept the choice. The courtship period begins at dawn tomorrow. Ambassador Rivers will be escorted to the Sapphire Wing. Preparations will be made. A ripple of bows, some deep and genuine, others shallow and resentful. Kieran stepped forward, ears practically trembling. Your Majesty, the implications for protocol, for precedent. Precedent is made today, Kieran, she cut in gently. You may update the archives accordingly. He bowed, defeated, and retreated. Lorraine finally lifted her hand and placed it over mine. Light pressure, guiding my palm away from her shoulder. The loss of contact felt oddly cold. Come, she said, quieter now. Walk with me. They need time to process before they start scheming in earnest. She turned toward a side archway I hadn't noticed before, smaller, half hidden behind cascading vines of luminescent ivy. 2 guards in void black armor fell in behind us without a word. I followed. The corridor beyond was quieter, lit by floating orbs that drifted like lazy fireflies. The air smelled of rain-soaked stone and night-blooming flowers. Our footsteps echoed softly. You tested me, I said when the silence stretched too long. Yes. Why? She glanced sideways at me. Because I am surrounded by people who have rehearsed every word they say in my presence since they learned to speak. Because I wanted to know if an outsider, someone with no stake in our internal games, could look past the crown and see anything else. I let out a short breath. And did I pass? You chose the voice that admitted doubt, that asked real questions, that laughed without permission. She paused. Most would have picked the safest, most advantageous option, the one with the strongest clan, the best fleet, the richest minds. You didn't. I didn't know who any of them really were, I pointed out. Including you. Exactly. She stopped walking, turned to face me fully. The orbs hovered closer, bathing her in soft golden light. You chose blind, on instinct, on nothing but words and presence. That is either extraordinarily foolish or extraordinarily brave. Probably both, I admitted. She smiled then, small, real, unguarded for the first time. We have 30 days, she said. 30 days of shared meals, public appearances, private conversations. 30 days during which every move we make will be dissected by people who want one or both of us to fail. I nodded slowly. No pressure. None at all. Her tone was dry. You may still withdraw at any point before the final right. No one would fault you. The diplomatic fallout would be minimal. I'm not withdrawing. Her brows lifted slightly. You're certain? I ran once, I said. From Earth. From consequences. From myself. I'm tired of running. If this is a mess, I'd rather face it than dodge it. Something flickered in her eyes. Respect, maybe. Or curiosity. Or both. Then we face it together, she said simply. We resumed walking. The corridor opened into a private garden, open to the violet night sky, ringed by crystalline walls that reflected the triple rings overhead like fractured mirrors. A low table waited, set for two. No servants. No guards inside the perimeter. Just us. She gestured to the cushions. Sit. Eat. The kitchen assumed you might be hungry after all of this. I sank down across from her. Platters appeared seemingly from nowhere, steaming bowls of something that smelled like citrus and smoke, delicate slices of fruit that glowed faintly, bread that looked woven from silver thread. I picked up a piece of the bread. It was warm. Real. So, I said, what happens if, after 30 days, we decide it doesn't work? She tore a small piece from her own bread, considered it. Then we part amicably. The selection is annulled. You return to your embassy with honor intact. I return to my throne, and the galaxy moves on. And if it does work, her gaze lifted to mine. Then we rewrite a few more precedents. I took a bite. The bread tasted like salt and starlight. I didn't even see who I was choosing, I said quietly, repeating the thought that had been circling in my head since the blindfold came off. But my choice made me king of the galaxy. Loren froze for half a second. Then she laughed, full, unguarded, the sound echoing off the crystal walls like music. Not yet, she said, eyes bright. But give it 30 days. We'll see. The garden felt smaller after that laugh, like the crystal walls had drawn closer, listening. Loren leaned back on her cushion, one long ear shifting slightly as a night breeze carried the scent of glowing orchids through the open arches. The triple rings overhead painted shifting silver patterns across her face, turning her gray eyes into liquid mercury. I set my half-eaten bread down. You still haven't told me why you really did it. Stood among the candidates. Risked whatever this is. She traced the rim of her goblet with one finger. The amber liquid inside caught the light and flickered like trapped fireflies. Because I am tired, she said simply. I waited. 32 years on the throne, she continued. Every decision filtered through advisors. Every word weighed for political advantage. Every smile measured for effect. I have not been asked an honest question in longer than I care to remember. Not one that wasn't designed to extract something. Concessions, alliances, favors. She looked up at me. You asked why I came to the edge of the galaxy. No one has ever asked me that. Not even my late consort. He preferred the version of me that fit neatly on banners and treaties. I exhaled slowly. And what is the real answer? A small, wry smile. The same as yours, perhaps. I didn't run. I was born here. But the throne is its own kind of exile. You perform sovereignty until you forget where the performance ends and the person begins. I wanted one moment, just one, where someone might speak to me without knowing the title attached, where I could answer without calculating the cost. And I ruined it by choosing you. She laughed again, softer this time. You didn't ruin anything. You surprised me. I expected flattery, or caution, or the safe, strategic pick. Instead, you chose the voice that admitted exhaustion. That's either poetic or catastrophic. Possibly both. Both seems to be our theme tonight. She studied me across the low table. Tell me about the woman you left behind on Earth. The one who cost you so much. I tensed. You've read the file. Of course I've read the file. But files are summaries. I want the truth you told me in the dark. I looked down at my hands. The garden lights reflected tiny stars in the polished stone between us. Her name was Elena. political officer in the opposing party. We met at a conference on orbital habitats. She was brilliant, ruthless in debates, funny when no one important was watching. I thought it was real. I told her things, off-record assessments, private doubts about certain policies. She recorded them, used them. The scandal broke 3 weeks later. I was disgraced. She got promoted. Loren listened without interrupting. I didn't hate her. I went on. I hated myself for being stupid enough to believe privacy still existed. So I asked for the farthest posting they'd give me. Zavaron, 7 sounded appropriately remote. And now you're sitting in the private garden of the empress you accidentally proposed to. I snorted. The universe has a sense of humor. It does. She leaned forward slightly. Do you regret it? The choice? I met her gaze. Not yet. Ask me in 30 days. She nodded once, as if sealing something unspoken. A soft chime sounded from the archway. One of the black-armored guards stepped just inside the perimeter. Your Majesty, the Council requests an emergency session. They insist on discussing the implications. Loren sighed. Of course they do. She rose gracefully. Tell them I will attend in 1 hour. And inform Ambassador Rivers' staff that he is now residing in the Sapphire Wing. Full diplomatic honors. No exceptions. The guard bowed and vanished. She turned back to me. You should rest. Tomorrow begins the real performance. Breakfast at dawn. Public walk through the outer gardens at 10th hour. A state council meeting at noon where they will all stare daggers at you. And somewhere in between, we will have to decide how much truth we show them. I stood too. Any advice? Be yourself, she said. The version that spoke to me blindfolded. They won't know what to do with it. She started toward the archway, then paused. Turned back. One more thing. Yes. When the 30 days end, if we both decide this is merit, what then? I swallowed. Then I guess we figure out what a human Earth ambassador married to the Empress of 7 Suns actually looks like. Her smile was slow, almost daring. Terrifying. Intriguing. Possibly revolutionary. She stepped closer, close enough that I could see the faint silver threads woven through her stardust hair. I didn't expect anyone to choose me without knowing who I was, she said quietly. I echoed the words that had been echoing in my head since the blindfold fell. I didn't even see who I was choosing, but my choice made me king of the galaxy. For a second her composure cracked, just a flicker of something raw and unguarded in those nebula eyes. Then she touched my wrist lightly. A spark, not electric, something warmer. 30 days, Alex Rivers, she murmured. Let's see if the galaxy survives us. She walked away, robes whispering across stone, guards falling in behind her like shadows. I stood alone in the garden a long moment, staring up at the rings. Tomorrow the real test began, and for the first time in years, I wasn't running toward escape. I was walking straight into the fire. The 30 days passed like a fever dream. Breakfasts at dawn in the Sapphire Wing. Quiet conversations over glowing fruit and bitter tea that tasted like memories. She asked about Earth's reign again. I asked about the weight of a crown. We laughed at the absurdity of it all. We argued about trade tariffs once, then stopped when we realized we were both just reciting positions we didn't fully believe. Public walks through the gardens became a daily ritual. Nobles watched from balconies, whispering. I held her hand once, tentative, testing. She didn't pull away. Her fingers were cool, then warm, like the rings overhead shifting from dawn to dusk. Council meetings were worse. They stared. They questioned my motives. They questioned hers. She answered with steel wrapped in silk. I answered with the blunt honesty that had started this mess. Slowly, grudgingly, some began to see me not as an intruder, but as something else. A variable they hadn't calculated for. Nights were the hardest. Alone in my quarters, staring at the ceiling, wondering if I'd ruined everything or accidentally built something better. She sent messages sometimes, short, private, via encrypted crystal shard. You still haven't run. Neither have you, I'd reply. On the 30th morning, we stood in the same crystalline hall where it began. No blindfold this time. No semicircle of candidates. Just us, facing the court. Kieran read the ritual words. The air thrummed with anticipation. Loren turned to me. Her gray eyes were steady, bright, unguarded. Do you stand by your choice, Alex Rivers? I looked at her, really looked. At the woman who had tested me, laughed with me, shared silences with me. At the empress who had let me see the person beneath. I do, I said. Every blind, reckless step of it. She smiled, small, real, radiant. Then let it be known, she declared to the hall, that the selection holds. The courtship is complete. The union is binding. Gasps. Applause, some hesitant, some genuine. Kieran looked like he might faint. She stepped closer, touched my cheek lightly. I didn't expect anyone to choose me without knowing who I was, she whispered. I leaned in, forehead to hers. I didn't even see who I was choosing, I answered, voice low enough for only her. But my choice made me king of the galaxy. Her laugh was soft, breathless. Welcome to the throne, my magnificent fool. The court erupted. Cheers, objections, music swelling from hidden conduits. But in that moment, none of it mattered. Just us, two people who had met in darkness and chosen light. Thank you for listening to this story to the end. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Write in the comments what moment in this story impressed you the most. Tell me, do you like the comic book style? And also check out the other videos that just appeared on your screen. See you in the next video.